Yes. Welcome. Welcome everyone to the Sacred Blueprint for Our New Earth interview series. We've got hundreds of people joining from different parts of the globe to hear from the world's leading earth energy experts. I'm Aisha Rose Melody Hassan, and I will be your host for this series. I am an architect, alchemical healer, and the creator of the Sacred Blueprint, a cutting-edge vessel of courses and programs for property owners and designers to birth their dream sanctuaries through a new modality that bridges spirituality and architecture. This series is a response to a call I've been hearing on pretty high volume from Gaia, Mother Earth, and the nature spirits. And it's about exploring what's possible when we partner with the wisdom of nature to design and build healing sanctuaries for our future. Whether these sanctuaries are your homes or your gardens or communities you're planning to develop or visions for cities, the question is, how can we collaborate with nature and the spirit of place and the spirit of the land to develop practical and conscious solutions? All of our phenomenal 8 guest speakers in this circle will be sharing their experience, their wisdom, years of experience and wisdom years of experience and wisdom in teaching and designing with earth energies. And they will be answering this question throughout this series. Before moving on, I'd like to thank Geometric Models for sponsoring this event and aligning with the impulse of the Sacred Blueprint. It's such an honor to collaborate with this superb research group who's dedicated to investigating Mother Nature's sacred geometries. If you are interested in sacred geometry, modeling, and design, then please don't forget to check out their website at www.geometricmodels.com for educational tools. Now, before I introduce our next guest, we will be opening up the live, the bonus, I always say live, the bonus live Q&A at the end of our talk at about 45 or 50 minutes. And the Q&A button is at the bottom right-hand corner of the Zoom bar. You click on it and you can type your question to our guest. Recordings. A few of you have emailed my team about when recordings are up, etc. You have now access to your membership site, which houses all of the limited time recordings. The recordings are up for 48 hours once they are uploaded to the site. So my team, sometimes it takes a bit longer for Zoom to download the recording. So we will be notifying you when it's up on the site with the link to where you can to view it. Now, don't forget, the bonus Q&A is not included in the recording, so make sure you join live to benefit from some one-on-one time with our guests. So our next guest, he is a bio-architect, he is a designer, he is an inventor, and he's the one who's down on the ground, getting his hands dirty, exploring and experimenting with natural building, sustainable architecture, bio-architecture, designing living habitats that are totally off-grid and provide the most incredible sustainable solutions for our future. He's also going to be sharing his bio-shelter organism, which has the capacity to withstand extreme cold. So I'm super excited to hear what the advancements are on this project. And I am so delighted to welcome Alosha Linov. Welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So nice to see you. So nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you,
It's such a
Aisha.
delight.
Yeah,
It's
I've
such a
actually came about to your previous session, and somebody recommended, hey, check this out, because they knew I'm into sacred geometry and the whole natural building. So, and I watched all of your speakers last time, or almost all of them, and it was quite phenomenal. I actually connected with Chris Karikau.
Oh, perfect. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, really, we're building a movement, Alosha. We're building a movement, and it's time. It's time.
Yeah,
We
especially
need.
now in these challenging times, having a home that provides you food, and at least nutrient dense food, because I think the one of the issues right now is that the food is quite empty that we're getting from the shelves. So that's what I'll be speaking today about. But in essence, it's the partnering with nature in the simplest form of its ecosystems, and the way that nature works with all this bacteria, earthworms, and all living beings, the water, the spiraling. We want to bring it all in, the Victor Schauberger. It's all in there. And but how do we make it into like a practical model? So
yeah. And I feel like you have the keys. A lot of us are, we're visioning what's possible. We're drawing them. We're drawing the blueprints. And what I love, what I appreciate about you is you are drawing them, and you are bringing them down on the ground and actually experimenting with how to build these structures. But before we get into that, how did you, Alosha, just give a brief history of time of Alosha Linov, and how did you get into Earthships? Do we have a delay? Can everyone hear us okay? I'm hearing my voice. Okay, you're good. Okay. Christy, our assistant, just send me a message if or anybody. Anyway, okay.
Oh, this is not a delay. My delay sometimes happens 10 seconds after I speak my mouth. So
yeah. No, it's anyway. So it was just because I was hearing my own voice. So I was hoping, okay, there's an echo, but okay, that's fine. So yeah, how did you get into Earthships and building? Doing natural building? And
I think this, just to summarize the story, as I finished school, my mom said to me, okay, son, time to get a job and off you go. And I went to the shopping mall and I went into a clothing store, and there you're supposed to move all the hangers and make the clothes all look nice. I've worked one day and I'm like, oh my God, I hate this so much. I came home and thanks God she didn't force me to go back. So I started playing with little toothpicks and polystyrene balls, and I started sticking them in and, making the little spiky balls. And then I got the barbecue sticks and grew this thing bigger and was painting them ultraviolet colors. I started decorating trance parties and then clubs. And then I went into corporate decor, and I started laser cutting spandex, the same stuff you your swim costume material. So that basically, I'm the curve guy. If I'm one of the curves guys, okay. Gaudi was another curve guy, and there's those people that just don't like resonate with rectangular shapes. So basically we started playing with fabric and solidifying it back in 2007 with type of a resin and a natural plaster Paris type of material. And we got this fabric really hard. So I would make little shells with ribs, and then I'd pull my fabric over it and it would spray it with the stuff. And then that naturally led me to getting a book called Homework by, got out of my head. But basically I saw a ferrocement workshop coming up in Mexico. It was all these very fancy fluid shapes, Gaudi, but on a small scale. And I was like, oh my God. So I contacted the guy, and true as Bob, he had a workshop in about 2 weeks, and I ran to get a Mexican visa. It all worked out. And then basically that was my first workshop in 2007. And of course, I realized the Buckminster Fuller. I learned about Buckminster Fuller and started playing with geodesic domes, which are pretty simple and fun. And then I started making the domes back here with the PVC covers back in South Africa when I was staying. And then we moved out into nature with my ex-wife and my son. We decided to just leave the city of Johannesburg. It was pretty dangerous. It's still very dangerous. And we bought a farm. And, and I was on a mission to build a permaculture school. It was like, take all my domes that I got through my corporate event decor and event domes, and I took them to start on the land. And that's where I had quite a bit of experience with actually getting my hands dirty and building some sandbag homes. And I've attended an Earthship workshop as well as a Cal Earth workshop, which is a California Institute of Art and Architecture, in California. So that's Nader Khalili from Iran, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was great because that was like blew my mind, because curves that can be made permanent using sandbags, long sandbags, like kilometer long, you cut, it comes like a toilet paper roll and you just cut as much as you want. Exactly. So it blew my mind away because it's very cheap, very, very cheap. It's extremely affordable. It uses a lot of muscle power, but the material is 1 to 10. So you use 1 part cement to 10 parts earth from underneath your feet versus a conventional building, which is 1 to 2.5. So it's already 4 times cheaper. And then basically after playing a lot of things, I went into bankruptcy because go big or go home, some programs from my past and my dad, and I could say I failed financially because I, ignored the city. I wanted to be like an ostrich with my head, permaculture, let's do it, all natural building. And then I ran out of money, and the food in my garden wasn't producing enough to sustain the family, and that took us right back to the city. So coming back to the city one day, and this is where it gets really fun, I heard a bloop bloop, and I'm like, what is that? I ran downstairs and I saw sewage coming up from my downstairs bath and my toilet at the same time, at the same level. And just about when it started to overflow, I ran outside with a sledgehammer and I hit the sewage pipe that, it goes at an elbow, the 110
Did you try
pipe.
to kink it so that it...
Yeah, I hammered it right through, and poo and toilet paper went through my garden for 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. The house is lower than the sewage line.
Oh,
the main city sewage line, and that runs across the river, and I'm on the riverfront. I bought it there. It's beautiful. It's very jungly, being by the river. So I thought, oh, that's lovely, But as little as I knew that they, this river in a few years was going to turn into a sewage river, and the sewage is also going to come up to my house. So I knew I had to go 2 reasons. I either chlorine the living hell out of, just to backtrack, there's only one way to get out of this system. You either sell the house, or if you want to stay in this house, you have to get yourself off the city sewer line.
Yeah,
there's
or
no other
what
way.
other people do, completely chlorinate the hell out of everything, and that's what you were.
Exactly. So if you do decide to get off the city sewer line, there are 2 ways to go out of that little fork in the road. And the one way is you chlorine it, or another way you use nature as your partner. So of course, being the natural with the curves, and I always loved hiking and nature. I mean, God forbid, I knew how chlorine is very toxic. I'm like, no, there's got to be another way. So I basically one by one started getting all my outlets. In South Africa, these homes are ridiculous. There is the maid's quarters where the helping lady is supposed to live. There's those toilets. There is like 3 bathrooms and kitchen. There's so many outlets, and they're all at different levels, and some are below the ground. Those are the tricky ones, when the outlets of your gray water are below the ground. So I started making and Christy, if you don't mind, to pull up the image with all those little square images, maybe that'll be a good indication of what I've done in that South African home. So Yeah, here we go. But the picture is not entire. You can't make it smaller. Yeah.
Ah, perfect.
Oh no, almost. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so basically I got the natural pool, I got a whole bunch of wetlands, I got a whole bunch of terraces. Every time, you know, I started using nature as a friend. I not only wanted to get all my gray water and black water outlets, I wanted to get the rainwater harvesting and from all surfaces. So as you can see, rainwater harvesting doesn't only happen from the roof. Rainwater harvesting happens in the pool. You could house it in a pool as a storage. Top left picture, the second one is the water tank. Again, I started using my straight linear house, but started attaching curvilinear sandbags. And believe it or not, the curvilinear sandbags are much stronger because as the curve snakes, it's a self-supporting wall. So it's not just a pretty wall, it's a self-supporting wall. And yeah, if you can see the middle picture on the right, there is a pool from the drone shot. You can see my wall. That was actually a second problem I had. And the second problem was that this river, because they started cutting all the forest down, the floods became so terrific that one day my whole garden got covered in water. This river just went up 9 meters high. Like similar stuff was happening in Australia, but not as bad. But you know,
from the erosion,
it again made its way into 2 downstairs rooms. So I knew I had to go serious. And because I was
a thread in your life,
because I was observing nature, I stood at the river and I'm looking at all the walls, the brick walls that people are building upstream. They're all floating in the river. I'm like, oh my God, I can't build with brick, these square walls, linear walls are all broken apart. This river is too strong. So if you can look at this picture where you can see the pool from the top, I started building a wall again as a snake, 54 meters long, 60 centimeter bags. And every second one I interweaved like a Vesica Pisces pocket, which I then used as for mulch, for straw bales, for compost, one of them. So they were actually storage pockets that you don't see.
But how big are these pockets? How big are these when you
they're massive. They're massive, like 4 meters. In one of them I slept, the tiny one you see there on the right, I slept in that one, but the other ones get much bigger. So basically that's how I used the curves and nature, and this wall is still standing. I've actually, you'll see on my website, the river came up almost 2/3 up the wall, and it's just because it's curvy, it just plays with the river, and the river just vortexes around it and spirals around it and dances around it. So I just went with this crazy curvy style everywhere. The orange roof, you see the second picture from the right, that's after that Mexican workshop. I came back and I'm like, right, I got to build this thing, because I find that, you know, it's no good going to a workshop if you just freeze this knowledge. And again, you don't have to go so big. I started by building a little dog booth. And then once the dog booth worked out well, which was a little bit of steel mesh and a bit of cement, and then I thought, no, that works. And then I built this seashell roof. So just to bring that practice into physical realm. So to answer your question, I was forced to start using nature, and it actually turned out to be such a beautiful experience, because this pool, the symphony of frogs, and I don't know where they came from because I never had frogs, and with that tall wall, I don't know how they could have jumped over, but suddenly I had, I'd say, thousands of frogs everywhere in my garden, because eventually I created 9 wetlands. I created 3 wetlands for the pool. I created the gray water wetland. I created the black water wetland, which you can see again in that drone picture, right next to the wall that goes curvy. The one next to it is the wetland for the sewage with all those bushy plants. And the one next to it is the wetland for the pool. So I had 9 different wetlands using all 9 different systems. I kept on trying and practicing and failing. And then I mean, a 3rd wetland for the pool worked out. The first 2 literally just, you know, it just wasn't good. They didn't do what they're supposed to do. And whoever is interested, I can quickly explain at the end. but Aisha, I was forced to come up with permaculture solutions, or lose out, because when I bought the house in 2008, as just before the crash. So as it crashed, the price of my house was half price. So selling it is not something you want to do, especially if you got the 25-year bond. So I had to and it was great. I worked out a lot of solutions and tested out. I built some domes on it. Under the dome, I built a 40,000 liter water tank. All the clay from this water tank, I took to another part outside of my garden. I created like a rice paddy paddocks that took the road water, the water from the road, and I harvested that water as well. So basically in this garden, I harvested the water from the roof, and I had the most difficult roof. You can see it, it's a grass roof. Grass roof is the worst roof you can harvest water from. So what we did, my mom sewed socks onto the gutters that catch water. She made socks out of shade cloth, so which allowed for all the grass pieces not to block up the gutter, because the amount of grass that comes off of the grass roof is ridiculous. So we just came up with the creative solutions, as you can see. Yeah.
And what about, you want to talk about the how nature inspires your forms? I'm hearing my voice again. It's interesting. How nature inspires your forms, the forms of the architecture.
Yeah. Look,
because you're also into sacred geometries. You're also interested in
sacred geometry Yes. So the sacred geometry, of course, it's found everywhere in the flowers and then everywhere. It's literally everywhere. So I was starting to become very interested in sacred geometry when I met, I haven't met, but when I saw the drawings of Michael Rice, Holistic House Plans, I think .com. But check Michael Rice out, and he basically took the Fibonacci spiral. Dan Winter does it as well, and they take the spiral and they mirror it, so they get this like little heart shape, and then they turn it 5 times on its center axis, and that creates, like, call it a dream catcher or call it a sunflower pattern. So I took those, and actually this is designed in using that. It's based on 5, and there's a spiral here, but basically I took that spiral design. By the way, you can draw it with your hand. It's very easy. So there's 3 ways to draw a Fibonacci spiral, but it's not right now. But basically, I started to use tracing paper and find shapes within those rhombuses. The rhombuses, the intercrossings over the Fibonacci spiral, you start to see shapes. And using unfortunately, I didn't add the drawing, but I started to get very, very cool shapes. And these shapes, I was reading Victor Schauberger at the time, the water wizard. And I started to plan, how would the water systems be if they're designed like that, the wetlands? So if the wetland is not just like a random shape or like a rectangular long trough. What I mean by wetland, it's a plastic lined with gravel, sand, and 15 centimeters of soil. So when we speak of constructed wetlands, it's a man-made,
natural ones. Yeah.
So what if our wetlands could take those forms of sacred geometry and you could walk through these? It's basically what I tried to recreate in the house in South Africa, but obviously you're limited there by a huge house that's already there, a wall here and a wall here and limitations here and a sewer pipe there. So, obviously playing with sacred geometry really allowed me to experiment on the land. But then I created a mandala garden on half a hectare. That's, again, go big or go home. And it's terrible program to have, because it backfired so much, because I thought, no, let's double dig the whole garden. And I had a dome in the center and 5 pathways going out. And then I created these concentric circles that were spread out to about 50 meters diameter. So really huge garden. And I double dug the whole thing. And then the next big rains that came, they washed the garden to the bedrock, parts of it, because mandala garden, as romantic as it sounds, can only be created on a flat space. As soon as you have a hill, you have to work with things called contour lines. A contour line is a line of the same height above sea level. Very easy to find it. You can use an A-frame stick or water level. There's a variety of ways, or you can use much fancier tools. But contour lines are very important because the water flows 90 degrees to contour line. So this is where my mandala sacred geometry garden really backfired on me. So it's all good if you make a little flat spot and you make a small herb garden, for example.
Yeah. But if it's terrace, if it's sloping, right?
Exactly, but you can't put a whole mandala on a on a slope. But again, I've noticed the beds that were the concentric circles was the 5 pathways. The beds that were facing down caught the water and were moist, and the beds that were up, because it's a concentric circle, diverted the water and were dry. So, even that mistake showed me, oh, okay. And then I realized why in permaculture they talk about these horseshoe gardens that catch all the water.
And I see them naturally built in hills in Turkey, like the farmers are working with these natural stone walls to hold if it's not a heavily forested plot.
And then you smile it up, so allowing the water to come, because if you just keep it like on a horizontal on a contour line, the water will flow out. But if you just take the ends of your garden bed and you just smile it uphill, then it just
I love that, smile it uphill.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But that's permaculture, and it's a very big, you can make them meander and so on. So, but we're moving away from sacred geometry. So basically, I started designing homes based on sacred geometry. And of course, building or designing a square block just wasn't anywhere in my frame of reference at all. So the sandbags gave me the ability to play because of the
full creative expression, right?
Yeah. The sandbags were really just allowed me to have that creative expression. And then after drawing, so it was the drawing and the building and the drawing and the building. It's very important not to get stuck in the just drawing, because one could have very strange fantasy ideas. And as I said, when I tried some of these fantasy drawings, they didn't work out because of exactly what I explained. So it's very important to continue, even just if you have a small project like a little garden shed. Maybe you can build a little egg, a little sanctuary that you can meditate.
Yeah, like a little experimenting, a hut. Yeah.
Build a little steam room. Build something small. It's so important, and it's really a small project that's completed will give you a lot of confidence and self-confidence into, okay, I can go a little bit bigger, and then you can make a little garden around it. I think over the years I've created a lot of these mistakes because I've gone too big, and that's part of that whole thing, that living in South Africa, the labor is cheap, and we've got to rethink that whole way of thinking. And but that's a separate conversation. But right now, it's myself and my wife, and we're looking at what tech can we get to help us. Can it be an excavator or a bulldozer that can flatten the site? Not to buy, but to rent for the time being. But it's definitely looking into tech. So more of Jacques Fresco type of thinking from Venus Project.
I think it's critical to not ignore the fact that robots are now helping the building of buildings right now. There's this, I think I saw recently, there's this one that's working with clays, pouring the clay and turning around and round. There's that project. And I'm generally not so into tech, and but I'm running my business with tech now, and it's I think if we find the balance, and that we make sure that they don't use us, and we're still in control and aligned and connected ourselves and grounded in nature.
We had this similar conversation in our natural building group. We have a little group. Akrid Harry joined us last time, actually. So and this romantic idea that no, people must go with their hands and build. I respect that, and most definitely. But if we can get a person, if a person can get a roof over their head fast, so they can move onto the land, so they can stop paying rent, so they can live on the land without traveling back and forth, because that's a time and money killer, and so debt-free, rent-free, and on the land. If we can get those, and dry, if we can get those three things up for a person, and then the finishing touches, the 3D emboss relief work, the things that you can shape
the door,
out of the
that
wall.
handle of the doorknob, you know, carving that piece, you know, those can be the craft pieces that we see in the Gaudi architecture.
Exactly. Or the 3D relief work, which is very easy to do. You hammer a few nails, you draw a little pattern you want, you hammer a few nails, some concrete or whatever, big nails, and then you can either use a little bit of mesh, or if you're going with clay, you can sculpt a 3D
and then do the fine work.
A 3D bump, a little beautiful, go creative play. But if people are paying a mortgage, if they or paying rent, and they're traveling up and down,
to be
2 hours
realistic
there,
about it,
you know, there's no time. So talking about the tech, I'm currently in Russia. I live here, and it's the printers. Most of the 3D printers, a lot of them are designed coming out of Russia, the originators. So they're coming down in price quite a lot, because one thinks of a large 3D printer as something very, very expensive.
Well, I know, I can't even wrap my head around that. Well,
let me tell you, 11 by 11 meters, 6 meters high. Okay, so 11 by 11 is pretty big. Okay, 110, 121 square meter home. I believe up to about 5-6 meters high. The printer costs $110,000. Okay, so it might sound a bit much, but if you split that into 5 homes, we're talking about $20,000, $25,000 per family if they decide to,
I'd be interested in seeing what those look like and how they work. That's pretty amazing.
The website is AMT. Just check out the AMT website. In Russia, you'll find them. And so this is the vision of the home. So Christy, if you could just pull out the 3D visuals with the drawing, it's called the drawing course, and you can see where I'm going.
Let's make sure we get some time to hear about your bio-shelter organism, if you have anything to share about. Okay, awesome. Because I really want to hear about this extreme cold. I was born and raised in Canada, in Ontario. It's not extreme cold for where you've been living, but I feel like my colleagues in Canada would definitely be interested in this. So yes, let's dive in.
Okay, so this is basically, I'm like obsessed. My obsession is to combine an Earthship, which is a self-heating home in Taos, New Mexico, so completely different climate, but they got it nice and cozy in winter time, even if it's snowing outside, and inside the home it's like toasty, and you walk in and you're like, what's heating this thing up? And you look at the fireplace and it's full of books. They're using it as a little storage space. You look at there's no batteries, there's nothing. It's just like, what's heating the space? And you come to the walls, and the walls are giving heat off, but it's a different type of heat. It's not like when you switch on the air heater that blows this dry air and you're like,
I hate blown.
It's a heat called radiance. Okay, so the walls are actually warming. Mass warms up mass. So we are mass, so suddenly you start to feel warm. So Earthships are very much driving my process here. So this is a sacred geometry combined with Earthship, designed for really, really, really cold climate. So just to finish the conversation with the tech, I'll go very quickly with the walls. Where I'm going with this is the foundation on tires, 2 rows of tires for foundation. You can see the top left home made with tires, the back wall. Then the 3D printer comes in, prints all the walls, and then we put on augmented reality glasses, and we build the vault with bricks, seeing in augmented reality glasses the form. Usually you would need
the image of it appears with the augmented reality.
Yeah, exactly. The software that you can check is called Follogram. Okay, so just check it out. Yeah, the guy's already building brick houses and curves, not roofs yet. They're just playing with benches and walls, but you can see every single brick. It tells you where to put the thing and what shape it needs to be. So it's so cool. So the technology is here. So we have a printer that builds the walls, because the problem, if you look at all of these roofs, they have a vault. A vault needs to have a formwork, okay? And if you have just a tunnel, like an underground metro station, which is just a tunnel, you know, that's easy, because you take a few curves, you put a sheet of metal over it, and that's your formwork.
But there's still a lot of engineering going into that to hold back the earth and anyway.
But now with the augmented reality, you don't need to have the formwork, because if you have the geometry right, it's a self-supporting shape. Okay, and the little movie you have to check out called Strength Through Geometry by Philip Block. Strength Through Geometry. They are building shells that are in comparison to an egg thin, okay, if you take the comparison. And they did something in Venice, the Biennale in Venice. They have an exhibition there in that venue, and they weren't allowed to attach anything to the walls. They created this most incredible shell, and you'll see it there. And it's about 5 centimeters thick, and it's about, I think, 20 by 20 meters. And there was no cement used between the blocks, and they're all random shapes. And they use the formwork.
What's binding them, though?
Just the geometry, just the strength, intention. Okay, intention. You have things going in compression that wants to pull away, and you have things in tension that want to self-support and lock into each other.
So it's dry. It's dry. It's like laying a dry stone wall, except
nothing. There's nothing. A limestone about 5 centimeters thick, and those stones about maybe a meter by meter, and they placed them all together, all obviously cut very precise, very precise. Okay, they brought them from America. They cut them there. They brought them into Venice. And they put it up on a form, that they took the form away, and all the blocks were and they just settled in. I was like, oh my God,
like
it worked. So the software tech to check out is Rhinoceros, Vault, VAULT, Rhino Vault, and check out. So they developed open source software, which is a plugin into Rhino, and Rhino is a software. Rhino 3D is what I'm using to design all these images you see. I'm actually having a 3D drawing class starting in 2 weeks on a new moon. So the link is at the bottom left, and I teach how to draw on paper your home and how to draw it in 3D Rhino. And the home we're going to be drawing is the one in the middle. So I'll finish up with the tech for now, because, you know, this is the vision of where I'm going. Yeah. But just to explain a little bit about the home, and the middle one is the latest design I've got. It's the thing, okay? All the other designs.
Middle, is it on the bottom or the
top? No, top middle, largest one. Yeah, this is why I didn't reply to Christy so long when she asked me for 2 images. I was drawing this up until 1:30 last night, and I'm obviously video editing it, and I'm recording, because I'm teaching the students how to do this very thing. So let me explain to you the design. Basically, it's got a tunnel on the front, but the tunnel is curved. Okay. Yeah. It's made out of polycarbonate, because it's way, way, way cheaper than a typical Earthship glass facade. You know, let's just start with the price of an Earthship, which is $400,000. You know, in this day and age, not nobody, but it's unaffordable for people to pay $400,000 for a natural home. And my vision is to allow people to build their homes without a 3D printer. All of this is designed to be done with sandbags. You can see all the sandbags. They're all the little sausages of sandbags here. It's designed with sandbags and aircrete or hempcrete, because the blocks are nice and big, nice and large, and you go doof, 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 doof. And then the bags are also pretty quick to do. But my vision is to get people to build their homes debt-free and DIY hands-on. So husband and wife, or two people just hammering away and getting this home built. And that's why debt-free is my key. Having lost my house to the bank, all those beautiful things that I've shown you, I walked out of it. I walked out of it because the debt hole was so big that, and the COVID hit and everything, and it was one plane to Russia, and I jumped on that plane. I walked out of that house. I just took my panels, my solar, my batteries, and a couple of pumps, and the rest I just walked out. All the stuff, I just gave it back to the bank. 11 years, halfway into the mortgage repayment. I couldn't sell it in time, and I couldn't, it just, So getting into debt is, I'm highly against. I don't believe we can truly thrive on the land if we have a 25-year hook, like an axe hanging over our neck. Really, you can't play, because you're always going to be thinking of that. So I'd rather have, that's why this home that you're seeing in the middle front, in the middle top, I've designed it as a modular home, meaning you start with the central room, and then you build a geodesic dome next to it, and you have yourself a little home that you can start with. And because it's 3.5 to 4 meters high, you can string a dream catcher at 2 meters high, a dream catcher like the South American one, but you use a rope, use thick rope, and I've tested it. It's the game. Okay, you stretch a dream catcher pretty quick. You can do it in a day, and then it creates a net that you can now use to sleep on, to create that extra space, especially in those countries that are got a very anal building code. Creating a dream catcher second floor does not classify as square footage.
I love the name of that, the dream catcher instead of the mezzanine or whatever. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So what it would mean in practice, it would mean a few hooks that you would, as you build with your sandbags, you take a few wires out, thick wires, and you leave them.
Children would love that.
Who?
Children.
Oh yeah. The grapes would too. So it's the space for plants and children to play, of course. Yeah. And it's really, really cool. So basically, the home design fractally. So you build yourself a central room, you build yourself a geodesic dome, and you already have a bathroom there, and even if it's just a composting toilet for now, and you have a shower with a wetland, a quick shower with a wetland. So in season first year, you build yourself a central space. And then as finances become available, you build one room at a time. And the way I designed it, the 4 rooms, the 2 on the left and the 2 on the right, they are exact mirror of each other. So meaning that you take a formwork, and I don't have a picture of a formwork, but a typical construction formwork is basically it's a replica shape with some either thin plywood on top or something, and then you use that to construct either ferrocement or lay bricks on. If we're not going with formwork, if we not just forget the augmented reality for now, we're just talking about like simple building. So the one formwork, you build your room over it, then you collapse it, move it to the next room, and then you build the next vault. So it's a very much a fractal type of building. So, and using one formwork for all 4 rooms, which is very, very cool. So that's the construction method. So that obviously you can see a lot of glass. So it allows a lot of sunlight to come in. That's how the Earthship operates. So you have the greenhouse, and the greenhouse has the wetland for all your gray water. Yes. So if somebody is not aware, just check out the Earthship wetland, or botanical cells, as they call them. Basically, it's got 2 feet of gravel, or 60 centimeters of gravel, 5 centimeters of sand, and 15 centimeters of soil. And the plants get planted in the soil. The food plants, bulrushes.
In a full greenhouse.
Bananas. Yeah. Beautiful. So you have banana plants in your lounge. It's really, really cool. And no smell. no smell. I'd like to, Aisha, you asked me a question, why partner with nature? I actually made a couple of notes. It's beautiful. It's super strong. It's reliable. The wood chips or the straw does not allow the smell to come through. So it's a natural filter at the same time. So partnering with nature is just a win-win-win-win-win in all situations. The Mike Reynolds Earthship home attracted an owl in the middle of Taos Desert, and they've got a photo of it. An owl in Taos Desert. It's never so. It pulls life because it is life.
I love that. I love that. It pulls life. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
let's talk about just. I'm sure the listeners would be curious. Well, how on earth am I going to get this home at minus 20 Celsius?
Yes, that's what I'm wondering.
Okay. First of all, the back walls are buried. All the walls are buried. Okay. So if you look slightly right, you can see the the home was also like a reactor. A reactor is that cylinder with a sauna in the middle. Okay. So if you look at the right middle image, okay, it's the one in the center is the next version of this. Basically, you see a whole bunch of pipes. So what happens, Aisha? What happens is the sunlight comes into the greenhouses. Okay. The geodesic dome, being the tallest one, allows for all the heat to rise up. From that dome, we pull the heat down. We're using one fan, okay, that pulls it underneath and distributes it through the berm. This is why you're seeing all those little pipes in the middle image on the right. That's all buried. You won't see those pipes. It's 3-meter wall thickness and 3 meters high. So it's buried, and all the pipes are transferring the heat for 6 months of the year into the soil, into the soil, into the soil. Why the two solar chimneys, the two long chimneys? Basically, it's like a torch in the back with a mirror, okay? Polycarbonate on the front, once again, the Vesica Pisces. I'm talking about one of those chimney pipes.
Yeah, the section of the pipes, yeah.
Yeah. And then a black 6-meter tall, 30 centimeter black painted steel pipe that will create such a hell of a draft because it's going to get so hot. So I kickstart the system with one fan, but once it gets through these, that's the idea. Once it gets through these pipes, I switch off the fan and the sunlight keeps on pulling the air through and through and through. So this is how we partner with nature. Yes, we use a little bit of tech to kick in the airflow, but once it's flowing, we switch off the fan. We don't use any electricity, and we just allow the sun to pull the hot air through this thick berm. Again, covered by an excavator. Excavator will come and cover all of this up. We don't have to do it by spade. So the house is covered from the top and the back, and there is an insulation layer, a 10 centimeter thick insulation layer, either polystyrene or something alike, Penaplex, which is slightly dense. I don't know what it's called in your country, but it's that orange or pink stuff. It's quite dense. But basically, 2 meters into the back, then there is the insulation. So the walls are 2.5 meters thick, insulation. And on the ceiling, you can see in the middle drawing has this wall, like a sandbag wall above those arches. You can see it here. That sandbag wall is
built directly on top of the arches. Yeah, like you can
exactly see. That wall makes sure that the soil holds the soil from falling back forwards into, and that wall holds the greenhouse, and that wall holds the soil from going forward. So the whole house, from the top and back, it just completely covered with soil, with insulation buried. So basically, and the design of the house, I designed it to the angle that, to answer your question, how do I partner with nature? Well, I looked at what is my angle of the sun in January. I looked outside for second year in a row, and I'm saying, hang on, I can't look in January sun because in my country, in my continent, it's overcast. First of all, the sun is 9 degrees off the horizon, 9 degrees. It's like, it doesn't barely come out. And second of all, we don't have sunlight. It's overcast from November, December, and January, completely overcast. 2, 3, 5 days in 3 months of sunlight. The rest is just gray and like London terrible, we could call it, but wherever. No rain, is just overcast, thick, dense, and gray. Okay. Right. So then I'm like, okay, well, I can't, although Mike Reynolds from Earthship says that you have to angle the window, because you see all the Earthships, the windows are angled.
Yes,
you have
of
to
course.
angle it to get the winter solstice sun, which is 21st of December. You have to get it at 90 degrees. And I thought, well, I'm not counting my January sun because I don't have it. So then I'm like observing.
There's a lot of overcast.
Yeah. So I'm observing for second year in a row. I'll do some Googling, and I realized, hang on, our sun starts coming out after the middle of January. Okay, so I got to look at 1 month later. So I check. So what's the angle of the sun at my latitude of 55 degrees north, which is about where Canada and US meet? Yeah, 55 degrees north. So what is the angle of the sun at my latitude? And it's 22 degrees. So then I take protractor, compass, and I measure 22 degrees. I see this angle of the sun, and then I do the same for March, and then do the same for April. And that's why these roofs in this middle top drawing are designed at such a steep angle, because I want my February and March sun to come all the way and warm up the back wall. Directly hit the back wall, which will be painted a darker color, because darker car is 9 degrees hotter than a white car. So just right. This is how we partner with nature.
Common sense, actually. Yeah.
We use the laws of physics.
See white stucco all over in Izmir in Turkey. White stucco everywhere, right? There's a reason it gets really hot here, and we're reflecting the sun off of the buildings.
Well observed, because God forbid you build this home in Turkey, you're gonna bake. Oh
yeah. Oh, but there's so many architects and developers right now who are just fantasizing over designs from different parts of the world, Scandinavian, this, that, and they're basically building like glass boxes, or they're building roofs that have a lot of glass, like windows in them, clear story, all that. And then I'm just looking at, what are you guys
turn
doing?
on that AC.
Oh, well, that's the solution.
AC, unbearable.
Yeah, that's their solution.
No. It's and the energy is going to go up now, and it's just not the way.
Everybody. Yeah. Electricity is skyrocketing the price right now in Turkey. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Gas, petrol, everything. So, everybody's now thinking, people who are more conscious, more aware, who have somewhat of the means are really looking at how to build communities, how to work with solar power, how to save their water too. We did experience a drought the year before. This year we're thank goodness great. The barrage, I forget what they're called in English, they're all filled up, and we got lots of rain this year. But it's something now that a lot of people are really being more and more serious about. So Alyosha, there's so much to dive into, and we are coming to close to the end of the hour. I'm gonna shoot out a few questions to you, and you pull what you would like to share and express in these last moments. I'm sure that many of the participants are dying to ask you questions, so I'm sure some of the other.
But I'd like to just say one last thing about
absolutely,
because the cooling is important. I spoke about the heating. The cooling is very simple. The right drawing on the right in the middle, you see that little blue pipe at the bottom. That has pink insulation. The straight pipe, not the curved pipe. The straight going out. Okay, that is a cooling tube that runs underneath the ground and brings the coolness of the earth. And when you open the skylight in the greenhouse, it pulls the draft from the greenhouse, sucking the cold air. through.
Yeah.
But the
Working
cold
with
pipe is an
convection.
insulation because we're heating the berm. So the cold pipe, we don't want it to warm up. So we actually insulate the cold pipe to carry on the coldness that it pulls, let's say 20 meters underground away, underneath maybe 2 meters deep, and then that brings it. But that's all the
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
that we share in our course. I've got a course coming up and I'll share about it. But check out our website. We've got a few courses. It's all there. You can see the link. So I go into a lot of details. But yeah,
well, I mean, it's just incredible to think about how you're designing the mechanics of all of this in partnership with nature. And I'm just so excited to see communities being built with this system. I'm so excited to see more prototypes being built all over the world with this system. It's
Aisha, I also stand on shoulders of giants. It's not just nature. It's not just the 3.8 billion years of mimicking nature's genius. It's it's standing on Nader Khalili, on Mike Reynolds, on Gaudi, all the giants that came prior, Buckminster Fuller, John Todd from Living Machines, write them down, John Todd, Ecological. I mean, these people are getting to 80 years of their age. They're soon not going to be with us. So we've got to pull that knowledge from them like a sponge. So we've got to stand on the shoulders of giants. And Christy, for the next duration, while I'm answering questions, if you could just pull the last third image, because I see Aisha has mentioned community. So
yes, yeah. I have questions about what your visions are in Russia and all over the world for building community and community in partnership with the spirit of place, with the land, with nature. Yeah.
So do you want to, are you going to ask, was that a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a question. Well, I mean, this could be, we may be needing a part 2 for this conversation, but what do you think are some of the challenges we are facing in terms of community building? What do you think are some of the keys to build the sacred blueprint in the form of a community, in partnership with the land, with nature? Yeah, what are your visions? What's streaming through for the
Aisha, I'm going to state something out of the ordinary. I believe in order for us to build communities, we've got to do some inner work. And I'm talking about very specific inner work. Our schooling system currently is breeding competition. It's based on a schooling on marks. A+ for you, C- for you, bad boy, good boy. It splits polarity. This godly being that comes from universe comes to earth, and suddenly he's told bad or good. I mean, and given a mark, and people are, there's competitions in schools, and the marking system has got to be changed. So please look into Alexander Neil Summerhill School. Very similar to Waldorf, but very different. Please check out that school. We've got to look at that schooling system and create similar versions or different versions of that type of thinking, where there are there is no hierarchy in the form of bullying and I'm above you, so I'll push you down. So it's the fascism that we have right now that's happening in Ukraine, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but it's nothing what you're hearing on the news. But the fascism keeps on coming back because it all starts breeding in schools. So why I'm speaking about this right now is because we can't build communities at the moment unless people are prepared to do very specific work, which my wife also teaches and other people, but it's something to do with working through the trauma. For as long as people are going to say, I've got no trauma, I'm fine, thanks, I don't want to dig into the past, I'm sorry, but those are the members that I don't want to have in my community, because sooner or later, it'll be all smiley, and then,
blow up.
I say it like that. And suddenly there is manipulations and there is aggravation, and now the neighbors are not talking to each other. I'm seeing smaller communities of maybe 3, 4, 5 families. I'm seeing lots of land around each one, so you really don't see your neighbor, you don't hear your neighbor, but a 3-minute bicycle ride, you're there. And I'm seeing collaboration. So maybe you have the 3D printer, or if we just even go to something simpler, like you're harvesting the herbs, I'm drying the herbs, and somebody else is marketing and sending them out to the city. I'm seeing those type of simple collaborations that we can start bringing the economic abundance into our communities. But it's got to start with inner work, very specific inner work. And we have a course on this. Again, it's on my website, consciousness integration. But
so important.
Very important. You can't go through, because communities fail. Currently, there is a 95%
constantly
failure rate. Or people are smoking pot or drinking, and they're like, no, I'm fine. Everything is good. That's not a long sustained community. And at this time and age, we do not have the luxury of time of 10 years down the line, having people leave and leave all the things that they've built. Nobody wants to do that. And I think the other challenge that I'm having is I've been spoiled in South Africa with cheap labor of having... may I just call it as it is, having slaves, paying them cut paper, and having literally like slaves doing all the hard work that, so now that I'm in Russia, there's very different type of thinking. People won't do that for you, especially out here in the villages. Everybody has their own garden, at their own homestead. So it's very hard to get labor out here, even if you do have money. So for me, the biggest challenge is actually like, well, how do we use these things and drop the whole gigantism program, go big or go home, that I acquired from my dad, and actually start small, start a little home. And I really burnt my fingers last year, where I thought I'm going to build this home until the end of the year, because in South Africa, I would click my fingers and they would do whatever I told. Here, it's me and my wife, and we were building and building and building. And by the end of the year, we only made it to the end of the foundation. So that was a big reality check of,
Oh, absolutely. It's so humbling in so many ways, the whole construction process.
It takes long. If you're not prepared to get into debt, and if you're prepared to do things with your hands, I think one needs to look at 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yeah, definitely, at least.
Yeah.
And when you are aligned with nature, with the right energetics on the property, just like the owl flying into the middle of the desert to that house that you were talking about, or I forget what it was. Magic can happen too. I really do believe that. I really do feel like all of a sudden things start to flow when you're really aligned. And this drawing is so inspiring. I just want to dive right into it and walk around.
But let me just mention what you just said. In order for us to connect with call it the spirit of the land, we need to be on the land. So if you are looking at purchasing the land, I would highly recommend putting a tent up, and maybe going and spending a couple of nights at different places, feel it out. Or if you've already purchased the land, put a tent here, put a tent there. Where do you feel comfortable? Where would you put your home? Please look into Hartman and Curry, CURRY grid lines, and Hartman, because they run every 2 to 3 meters, and they're all over. And God forbid you put your office chair or your bed on the 2 crossings of those 2 lines. It's like a guaranteed sickness. So look into those things. Look into biogeometry, which I've studied with Ibrahim Karim. So there's a lot of things to be considered. But for simpler terms, a cat will always choose a space to sleep where there are no harmful energies. So maybe observe your cat and then put your bed,
I love that.
That kind of thing. So they're very sensitive to the energetics of the earth. But talking about the nature spirits, connect to your land. Ask your land, like where, but at the same time, don't go too much in your head. Walk the land, see where's the water, where's the tree. Do a little test, dig a little hole, like a meter deep. So see what's underneath your soil, because you might have some fantasy ideas, but then you dig 1 foot down and it's a rock, and it's going to cost you 30 times cheaper, 30 times more expensive, and probably 100 times more difficult to break through rock in order to, let's say, put your foundation. If
Foundations
I'm
in.
just giving an example. So yes, do connect with the land, but at the same time, do a pilot hole with the spade.
Yeah, practical and the spiritual, bridging it together. So
Spirit
important.
meets matter. It just, that's when magic happens.
It totally does. Okay, Alosha, we're so over time, but I don't care. We've got so many participants here and they, I'm sure, are dying to ask you questions. Let's open up the questions here. Ta-da. Okay, this was about the hearing. I can still kind of hear the echo, so apologies, everyone. It might be something to do with my internet, but hopefully
I can't hear your echo, so don't worry.
Okay, well, others might. It might be just me receiving that echo. Can you write down? Okay, wait. Let me go from the top because last time I missed a question. So can the drawing please go away now so the two of you can get big again? Okay, we did that. Mwah. Okay, thanks, Franye. Amazing. I love Earthships, but I'm curious about air quality when using tires and plastic bottles used in traditional Earthships. Could Alosha speak about this, please?
Yes, they've done quite a lot of tests. The tires are only a problem when they're exposed to sunlight and rain. As soon as the tires are plastered with natural plaster, they've done extensive tests by various universities in America that found no off-gassing. And the plastic bottles, that literally happen like where the vault is, that happens, that wall that are built to retain the soil from falling forward, that's a plastic wall and that's above your roof. But usually they don't use plastic bottles, they usually use glass bottles. So that's not a problem at all. Tires, I know they scare a lot of people. So if I want to build these houses for other people, sell kits, pre-made kits. So I do know that tires scare people. So that's why I've limited myself to 2 layers, just to use tires for the foundation and then use sandbags or 3D printed for the rest.
Okay.
But tires for foundation, again, really, really cool because they're nice and big. So even if you have a swampy foundation, your house will be strong on that.
And they have that lateral, like they're really wide.
Very strong, and they're free. They are free. Yeah. So no off-gassing. Don't worry about it.
Awesome. Can you write the URLs you've been talking about? Our assistant's been sharing Alosha's links right now, so she's sharing them now. Anybody else? Come on, no more questions? I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions for Alosha. We're waiting for them to stream through. Just checking if I have any.
If there's still a minute, I could explain that community drawing maybe in like 2 minutes. That would be really exciting.
And then that might give some time to the participants to gather their questions and send them over. Sure, absolutely. Christy, can you share that community drawing again, the big site plan?
Yeah, so basically, if we start on the right bottom, that's a market that will sell all the produce of the land. It looks like a guitar, yeah. Then you walk in, and then there is a permaculture training center. There's a few ponds and the permaculture.
Alosha, do you have a mouse or anything that you can move to?
I have a mouse, but because I'm not sharing my screen.
Oh, I think we can see.
It's not my mouse.
Oh, is that Chris? Oh, of course.
Christy,
that's so
could
funny.
You go?
Christy's sharing. That's so funny. I forgot. Well, it's okay.
But basically, so there's a whole bunch of little garden beds as you walk into the market. Flowers. Yeah, exactly. That's a whole permaculture training center there with the building. If you go a little bit, where Christy is holding, those are individual plots. Those and on top, they're 1 acre each. And also on the top there, Christy, top, all 1 acre, 1 acre plots with a little home, a little pond, a little natural live fence using trees and food forest. And basically it's a food forest garden all around. This is a whole community submerged in a lush food forest. On the top right, top right, you have an Earthship hotel. Yeah, there, top right, exactly there. You have an Earthship hotel. Then bottom from that, lower from from that, you have two schools. Yeah, and exactly two schools. And then a master craftsman, this little snake, the little road like a snake that goes down. That's a craftsman. That's the blacksmith and the clay pottery and the glass blowing. So they're all kind of. It's more of a tourist. It's a community. Okay, a community has to have a theme. What are they going to be making? You know, what do they love doing, and what would they love their economic model to be? This particular community economic model is to be like a festival, a place for festivals, a place like a natural festivals, a place where, like in Germany, they have a park where on the weekends lots of people come and they make barbecue, and then there's festival grounds. So they're like open up to themselves to the public once a week to allow people to come and stay, to experience the master craftsman, to see all of this, and for the rest of the time they are living in peace without you know.
And that fuels the economy of the community too. I mean that.
Oh yeah, because there is an entrance fee. Then everything the community members make and the produce they grow can be sold at that market, which I showed you. At the bottom, in the middle, if you look at the bottom in the middle, right bottom, a bit to the right, that's a festival ground. There, it's on the left there. There's a festival, exactly. That's a festival ground. That's a theater. That's like a theater with a little labyrinth there. So, you know, you could, and it's got lots of cooperatives. If you go to the left, you'll see a big pond at the bottom left. Yeah, around this pond, there's a whole bunch of domes. So those are for rental little domes. So that's somebody else's family. Like, let's say Aisha's living there and she's building domes and she's renting domes out. And then there's a cafe right there. Look, these are just dreams and ideas. Obviously, they need energy and resources too. This is designed for 70 families. To give you a size scale, 125 hectares. 125 hectares, about 300 acres, I believe. So it's a big piece of land. So again, it doesn't have to be this size, and it probably would be very difficult to build something like that. But you know, it's a vision. It's a vision.
Anything is possible, I think. I mean, for sure. Like this is.
So it's a large property development project in a way that some places are sold and some community members are putting in time and energy. But the community itself will grow as the members evolve and whoever joins, you know. So community won't kick off like that. It all grows very organically, and we have to remember that. God forbid you come and join with 70 people that you don't know and you all placed together on one land. There's going to be a very big problem very soon. So I would highly recommend joining with 2 families, 3 families, and don't wait for anybody, because when we wanted to start living an eco life in 2010, everybody was saying yes, but when it came to actually moving, nobody
dropped
moved.
like flies. I know.
Yeah, it's you and your wife and your partner, and it's together with your kids. You make a move. You start a little nest. You create an extra guest house that others can come and stay in when they come in.
One step at a time. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's how it starts.
Yeah.
With just one extra room that you can have outside your home, preferably, because energies, you need to keep that energy of your family sacred. So when other people join, even like mothers-in-law, are outside, separate home for that. Very important. Very important.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, I think we've got another question coming in here. Beautiful presentation. Thanks a lot. Do you use Krotkov's GDV device to measure life force in buildings?
Never heard of it. I'm going to Google it when
Krotkov. This is Tufan. He was in the last series. This is Tufan Güven from Turkey. He's into doing fractals and sacred geometry, and he's also doing some healing work with biophotons and stuff. So yeah, Krotkov, amazing. Tufan, we'd love to hear more about it. Put a post up.
Well, the tools that I do use, okay, I have attended a course with biogeometry developed by Ibrahim Karim, and I've got a whole bunch of pendulums. So I can test for very, very specific energies in their color spectrum of different energies that are in the land. So at least I can avoid the harmful energies. And I haven't used the tool as extensively. I do have them, but I'm able to find the energies of high resonance, which is like, let's call it just amazing energy. And this amazing energy is actually very much explained. It's called a BG3. It's got a high harmonic of gold, high harmonic of ultraviolet, and negative green, which got nothing to do with negative, but it's where it is on the spectrum of color. Negative green carrier wave. Negative.
Oh, did we cut out?
All living things. Okay. And then the vertical one, negative green, which is the ones that are 5G and Wi-Fi and electromagnetic radiation use. So negative green is a carrier wave. You have a horizontal aspect and you have a vertical aspect. Vertical aspect is the harmful one. So what biogeometry does, it basically wobbles out and distracts the vertical harmful negative green, and that cancels out and, you know, and creates that harmonic BG3 quality in your home. But we layer things up, like in permaculture, we stack functions. So the dimension of the width, like in that house that I was showing, the 3D house, the central one, the width of the house is the sacred geometrical proportion. 1.618 multiplied by 1.618 multiplied by 1.618 gives you 4.235. So I made my dimension of the inside of the room 4.235 meters. Okay. The height to the width is also in the sacred geometrical proportion. The geodesic dome has sacred geometry right throughout, because the pentagon has got it like 100 times in each pentagon, and a hexagon, of course. And that's in our logo, AZ. It's all made with a pentagon and hexagon. So I use sacred geometry. So that's the one thing we stack. The other thing we stack, we can put little stones at very specific points to get that energy flowing. The other things we stack is we can position a little pinhole window at summer solstice, you know, so to allow the sunlight on summer solstice to come in, and on the opposite side of the wall you make a little from tiles you make a little mosaic with little sun, so the sunlight travels throughout the year, and on summer solstice, bang, it hits that wall on the opposite. So we stack different energies, the sunlight, the water energy. Maybe you put a little wind tube somewhere, so when the wind comes in, you can add that sound in. So that's how we really stir the magical cauldron. Yeah. When this is how I see the houses. Research Peter Erskine, giant rainbows. Peter Erskine, amazing. He makes these shapes that channel sunlight through the building and refracts it into huge rainbows. So I see that in our Watalarium home, and by adding a little bit of mist, little sprinkler, now you can see the rainbow as you lie on the Dreamcatcher net. You're bathing in the three-dimensional rainbow. Wow. I know it sounds like a unicorn fairy farting, but it's not. This is all real. I've tested some of these things, and it's just about putting them all together into a living bioshelter organism.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Amazing. You just brought so many other layers to what you're working, some deeper layers.
But I'm really needing people to come and join me in Russia so we can work on this project together. Yeah, it's really hard alone. I'm not gonna lie. I needing some finance to kick off some of these projects. So that's why, if you guys are interested in what I'm saying, at least support me by looking. I'm doing a live drawing course where I'm gonna teach you how to draw this home on paper. Top view, side view, elevation, front view, sections, and then we'll take it into Rhino 3D, and you'll be able to draw this from start to finish. So please support me, and because all of this finance is just going into development of this home. And then some other question we had there in Europe.
There's another question. Did you see it from?
In Europe. So it said, if you don't have a big 3D printer, yes, the walls would be with bags on top of the tire foundation. I don't have a picture here, but you can contact me. And in my drawing course, I give extensive examples from my past life, not past life, this life's experience of everything we built and why I came to what I came to and why it's a tire foundation, and all those details are in there. So yeah, so please join us there.
Yeah,
basically
everybody.
Tire foundation, sandbag walls, and then the vault, the roof is either ferrocement or bricks, or you can do bamboo if you have bamboo. So you gotta use what you have in your area. You can't say, oh, I'll do that because that's what that guy did on the other side of the world. No, I mean, you might have an abundance of bamboo, and you might have extremely crafty bamboo builders that can weave that, create your net that you can plaster that with
Absolutely
stabilized earth, which is again a little bit of sand and clay and some lime, and that now suddenly you have a beautiful shell with a bamboo reinforcement versus ferro, which is steel reinforcement. So be with your area, go to your next door neighbor and ask, how do they build foundations, in your area? Maybe it's a swampy area, like we have water 1 meter below the ground, 1 meter, you dig anywhere, and in spring now it comes up to ½ meter below the ground. So, building, if you have a fantasy of building an underground home, forget it, because it ain't gonna work in that particular climate. You're forever gonna fight with mold. No matter how much you waterproof it, water finds its way in. So in that particular case, you would build up. You would get a truckload of sand, and you lift yourself 1 foot off the ground, and then you build your home off that.
Alyosha, amazing. I mean, we could just continue hearing your stream of practical advice and inventions and designs. And I really am getting very excited, because I actually had a stint of time working with wood in Canada and doing some timber frame and furniture work. And I'm so inspired. And it's such a big piece of creation of, not only drawing the drawings, but actually going out there and building them with help, with community. So if any of you are itching to really lay the foundations for the sacred blueprint for this new earth, I think working in partnership with Alyosha is a very viable, very intelligent, and very wise option, honestly. So please contact him, get in touch with him to participate in his course. And you've got a whole bunch of other things going on. You've got your YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I've just typed my link to my website as well and YouTube channel, but they might be shutting down YouTube in my country anytime.
Right. And people are being shut off of Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we all have to be prepared for backup. Yeah, we all have to be prepared. So thank you, Alyosha. It was amazing. So before you go, and just continue, typing. I want to wrap up this talk. It was amazing, and I really look forward to hosting you again and continuing the conversation. And I look forward to seeing you create and build your visions. Yeah, I really look forward to it.
Thank you guys for participating. Thank you, Aisha, for your opportunity to be here, and I think what you're doing is really awesome. So we just do it for the planet, for our humanity, and for the right intent, and for our future generations.
Exactly, and for the children.
That's why it starts with schools.
Huge respect. I think that's the biggest key.
It's key.
So everybody, tomorrow, before you hop off, I can see a few people hopping off. I know we went on for longer, but it was such a juicy topic, juicy session. Tomorrow, Sandy Humby is joining us. She is an energy and space alchemist, and she is a magician. She is so talented with working with the energetics on people's properties. She clears imbalances. She works with harmonizing and balancing people's spaces to open the doors for love, for abundance, for prosperity, and for health. And she's going to share how she works this magic tomorrow. Again, same time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Join us. And recording of this session will be up soon. So please do share with your community, with your friends, your family, and go ahead and share what your visions are for the Sacred Blueprint. Send me and my team an email, and we'd love to hear what you're up to as well. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. See you.
Good.